The night Emily realized something was wrong began quietly, like every other night in the small house outside Portland. Rain tapped the windows. The clock hummed. Her father, David Miller, sat at the kitchen table reading paperwork from the garage he ran during the day. He looked tired. He always did. And for reasons Emily could not yet name, her chest tightened when she saw him that way. Emily was 22, home again after college plans fell apart. Her mother had died years ago, and since then the house had felt frozen in time. Same photos, same couch, same silence at dinner. David had raised her alone, working long hours, never dating, never bringing anyone home. Emily had once thought that was love. Lately, it felt like something heavier. She told herself she was just worried about him. Anyone would be. It was all she had left. Stu, when he smiled at her across the table, her heart beat too fast. She hated herself for noticing. David stood and gathered the papers. "You're up late," he said gently. "So are you," Emily replied. Their eyes met for a second too long. David looked away first. Emily went to her room, but sleep would not come. Her thoughts spun. She remembered how he used to wait up, when she was a teenager, sitting on the couch until he heard her key. How he had cheered the loudest at her graduation. How he still asked if she had eaten. These memories used to feel warm. Now they felt dangerous. She pressed a pillow to her face and whispered, "Stop." But feelings don't stop just because. You ask them to. The next morning, Emily offered to help at the garage. David hesitated, then agreed. The place smelled like oil and metal. Men greeted David with respect. Emily watched him work, confident and calm, and felt proud. Then the pride twisted into something else, sharp and confusing. A woman named Laura stopped by that afternoon. She was kind, about David's age, with soft laughter and steady eyes. She thanked David for fixing her car and asked if he wanted to grab coffee sometime. Emily froze. David smiled, surprised. "'Kay, maybe," he said. "I'll think about it." Emily barely heard the rest of the conversation. Her stomach churned. That night, she snapped at him over nothing. David noticed. "Are you okay?" he asked. "I'm fine," she said too fast. But she wasn't. The idea of someone else sitting at their table, laughing with him, taking her place, filled her with panic. She told herself she was afraid of change. That was all it had to be. Days passed. David seemed lighter. He shaved more often, hummed while cooking. Emily felt herself shrinking, watching from the doorway like a guest in her own home. She avoided Laura's name, avoided her father's eyes. One evening, the power went out during a storm. They lit candles and sat in the living room. Shadows danced on the walls. David talked about Emily's mother, about how lonely it had been after she died. "I didn't know how to move forward," he said quietly. "I was scared of doing it wrong." Emily listened, tears burning. She wanted to say, "You had me. I'm here." Instead, she felt a wave of guilt crash over her. She saw suddenly how much he had given up for her, how alone he had been. That night, the truth hit her hard and clear. What she felt was not love, not romance. It was fear mixed with gratitude, grief tangled with need. She had confused safety for desire, closeness for something forbidden. The realization hurt, but it also scared her, 'cause knowing didn't make the feelings vanish. Emily decided she needed distance. She applied for a job in Seattle, told herself it was for independence. David supported her, though his eyes were sad. Before she left, Laura came by the house. She and David laughed. In the kitchen, while Emily packed, the sound felt like a door closing. Emily paused, her hand on the suitcase, heart racing. As she stepped outside with her bag, she heard David call her name. She turned, unsure if she was running away or finally doing the right thing. Emily drove north before sunrise, the road wet and empty. Trees blurred past as her thoughts raced faster than the car. She kept seeing her father at the door, the way his voice softened when he said her name. She told herself leaving was right. Distance would quiet the noise in her head. It had to. Seattle greeted her with gray skies and sharp air. She rented a small room near a busy street and started work at a bookstore. The days filled quickly. Customers came and went. Boxes arrived. Shelves needed sorting. At night she walked until her legs ached, letting the city swallow her thoughts. It helped. Not enough, but some. David called every few days. He asked about work, about the rain, about whether she was eating well. Emily kept her answers short. She loved him. That part was simple. She needed to learn how to love him from a safer distance. Laura entered their lives quietly. David didn't talk much about her at first. When he did, his voice carried hope mixed with fear. Emily listened, steady and calm, even when something tight twisted inside her chest. She reminded herself that this was good. This was normal. This was how life moved forward. Weeks passed. Emily began to breathe easier. She made a friend at work, a woman named Claire who laughed loudly and didn't ask too many questions. They shared cheap dinners and long talks. Claire spoke about boundaries like they were tools, not walls. Emily listened closely. One evening, after a long shift, Emily sat by the window and watched the rain streak the glass. Her phone buzzed. It was David. "Laura's coming for dinner," he said. "Careful. I wanted you to know." Emily closed her eyes. "That's nice," she said, and meant it more than she expected. After the call, she cried. Not because she was losing him, but because she was finally letting go of something heavy and unnamed. The tears felt clean. Months later, Emily returned home for the holidays. The house looked brighter. New curtains, fresh paint. The old photos still hung, but they no longer felt like anchors. David hugged her, warm and familiar. She hugged back, steady. Laura was kind. She didn't push. She didn't compete. She listened. At dinner, they talked about books, about travel, about nothing important. Emily noticed how David laughed more easily, how his shoulders rested lower, lighter. That night, Emily lay awake in her old room. The ceiling looked the same, but she felt different, stronger, clearer. She understood now that love could twist when mixed with fear and loss. That didn't make it evil. It made it human. Before she left again, Emily sat with her father on the porch. Cold air filled their lungs. "I'm proud of you," David said. "You're finding your way." "So are you," Emily replied. There. Smiles matched, gentle and true. As she drove back toward the city, Emily felt something new settle in her chest. Not longing, not confusion, just peace.